How's it going, guys? So today I wanted to take a little bit of time to talk about this Rush 72 by 511. Um, Compare it to some of my other packs that I have, and maybe get into a little bit of why some gear works and some gear kind of misses the mark. So, with that being said, let's go ahead and get into this first and foremost. So this Rush 72 is, I want to say it's a 55-liter pack. As you can see, it's pretty good size. It is intended to fill the role of a 3-day pack, as far as I can tell, at least with the naming structure. This is the original like 1.0 version and multicam. Now they have a 2.0, but as far as I can tell, online it's fairly similar to the first gen. So I think this should fulfill my thoughts on the whole thing. So let's just go ahead and get started with the pack here by just going over it. So starting from the front here, it has an integrated yoke. There's no shoulder adjustment or like ride height load lifter adjustment. It's got these cool quick release straps, so you can uh, like lash it to the side of a Striker or a Bradley, some other vehicle. It also has a pretty rudimentary waist belt. Um, it's nothing special. It does have an internal plastic frame. You can't really feel it in there because of all the padding back here, but it has an internal plastic frame, and where the plastic frame is at, it has another pocket in here. I think it's supposed to be like a laptop pocket, or maybe a hydration pocket or something like that, but it's there's not much to it. As you can see, it's got some padding on the back, on the shoulders, and on the hips here, and but it for the most part it just kind of has a wide flat back. Moving on from there, it has this sunglasses pocket with like a microfiber um, lining in there. It's got a carry handle up top. It's got a couple of ports coming out from the main pocket for antennas or hydration tubes. I guess really anything that you would need to route out of it. As you can see, the main compartment opens up pretty large, really good, really large main area. It has, let's see, as you can tell, it's got plenty of internal pockets for organization in it. Whole lot of like just mesh pockets to put stuff in, organize your gear. Really nice wide layout for it. It's got kind of like a miscellaneous pocket up here. I usually put like keys or something like that in there. And then it's got this lower pocket that is very similar to the first one, except it has some magazine retention pouches. I don't know if you, yeah, kind of hard to get in there and show you, but some magazine retention pouches, and also some pouches for like pins or chem lights, I'd imagine, small stuff. It's very focused on organizing everything. And it also has this beaver tail section where you can shove odd shaped things like a helmet, like an ACH or a high cut, something like that in there. I think that's generally what it's intended to be. And then on both sides, it also has these side pockets with four Molly columns on them. There we go. And the side pockets, they're identical on each side, but they're nice and wide. I think they're meant for water bottles, and they like those tall Nalgene, stuff like that. And of course, it's got a big Molly field on the front of it if you want to add anything to it. And yeah, that's kind of it as far as features go. It's a very feature rich pack. So why don't I like it? Why do I not think it's a very good pack? Despite being so feature rich and being like extremely well made. I've had this one since like late 2018, and it's seen quite a bit of use. And like none of the seams are breaking, none of the none of like the straps are worn out or anything like that. It's definitely got good build quality. It's like it's either 500 or 1000D Kandura. Like it's built super well, and the price reflects that. It's like a couple $100 or something like that for one of these. Um, so why don't I like it? Um, well, I mean, I guess the short answer is because it kind of feels like tactical luggage, and I guess now for the long answer. So why do I say that? Why does it feel like tactical luggage? It feels like this bag was designed, and I could be totally off base and totally wrong, but again, this is just my opinion. I think this bag was made to deliver as much bag as possible with as many features as possible within the price point that 511 was going to sell this at. I think that they had all of these features that they wanted to hit for a 72-hour bag on paper, like, things that it absolutely needed to have, and they did their best to put all of those features in it. It has an amazing amount of organizational space. It's a very large pack for a 3-day pack, 55 liters, so you can fit, uh, like realistically, anything that you would need within 3 days of going to the field, um, like a short little exercise or like being at a range for 3 days, you'd definitely be able to fit it in there, no problem at all. And it's very capable at carrying all of that. It's not gonna break. The straps are gonna be able to handle it. I'm sure you'll be able to get enough adjustment in there, and it's definitely going to hold up. Again, I've had this since 2018. Very, very old pack. Quite a bit of time with it, but even though it's a very capable pack as far as carrying stuff, it just is, compared to like other things in the market, or other things within the niche is probably a better way to put it. Other things within the niche of a 3-day pack, I think it just kind of misses the mark of what it needs to be. The the purpose of a 3-day pack, at least in my opinion, is not to carry everything that you need for 3 days. It's to not carry anything that you don't need for 3 days. You're gonna pack just the essentials. Like, do you need to pack 3 changes of clothes for 3 days? No, probably not. If you're just like gonna be at a range or at a short field exercise or something like that. But you could absolutely do this or do that if you had one of this and probably fit like an extra pair of boots in there too. Um, as far as carrying stuff in it, it doesn't do super well carrying stuff because there's no ability to be able to adjust the load lifters. Right where it's at is where it's at, and you just got to deal with it. There's no way to really get it up above your shoulders. The the back of it is so wide and flat that I think counterintuitively it just doesn't get good purchase on your back. I've had this bag for a while and I haven't used it all that time, but I have loaned it out to people, whenever they've needed something. During my first enlistment, we're going on a field problem, and one of the other dismounted team leaders asked if he could borrow something like this because he didn't have an assault pack in order to be able to, like, because the rucks stay on the Bradleys, and then guys kind of live out of their assault packs when they can. He wanted to borrow this so he could be able to take more, and the downside was when he was moving with it, he told me afterwards that it kept sliding around on his plate carrier. He couldn't cinch it down tight enough no matter what he did. He wore an IOTV with like a slick back on it. Uh, So he would assumedly just put the shoulder straps over him, and it just kind of moved around. And my own experience, when this was the only like 3 day pack that I had, um, when I would like try and shoot with this or anything like that, the the straps were just not shaped well in order to be able to like accommodate a a rifle stock. Maybe that's a concern to you, maybe it's not, but those are just some of the brief reasons as to why I didn't. You know, I I started looking for something different. Moreover, the Molly is in like the worst place that you could get. It's on these side pouches. They're meant to be flexible. They're meant to be expandable. And the problem is if you try to molly anything to this one, it's going to be a pain if you have to use the pocket. You unzip anything and then zip it back up. That weight for whatever you have in that pouch is going to be pulling it apart at the zipper, and also it's disconnected from the main pack. It doesn't have any real rigidity to it, and it kind of just flops around. And the same thing with this big molly field right here. There's no real structure to this. So if for some god awful reason you needed more space in this, which I really don't think you would anyways, but if for some reason you wanted to put more molly or more stuff on this molly, it'll just pull like that downward whenever you're wearing it, unless of course it's packed to the gills, and then I think you got a whole other host of issues. So this is not something I would choose. I wouldn't choose this or something like this, a really big 3 day assault pack, because I think it was just made to carry, it was meant to give you as much bag as they possibly could for a 3 day style bag. I think this works really well as luggage. I've actually used it as that, and I think it works really well as a gym bag, which is what I usually use it as. Uh, I'll take off my OCPs after work if I'm working out. Then, if I didn't get to work out during lunch, take off the OCPs, and you got plenty of room to fold them up, take the boots off, put them nicely in here, and you can unzip it all the way and lay it flat, and it looks really nice and clean. So if this $200 bag is honestly kind of a waste, what would I recommend instead? What is something that I do think fills a good 3 day roll, and why? Well, one option would be something like this. This is not a medium Alice pack, although it is very similar. This is a uh, Radio Man pack that I want to say I got this during my first contract. There was a bunch of them that they had off the books, and they needed to get rid of them, so I got one, and it was I've just had it ever since. I spent $15 on the uh, medium Molly U frame. I've never actually gotten issued one of these, but they seem like they work okay. I really like the U-shaped plastic frame. It's maybe my uh, least hated plastic frame. But this, obviously, just by looking at it and by the cost that I just told you that I have into this thing, is a pretty far departure from something like the Mystery Ranch. I don't know how many liters something like one of these bags is, but I would imagine it's not very large. So just opening it up here so you can get a better look at it. So it's got the the pouches that pretty much all Alice has. These three like kind of magazine sustainment pouches, double magazine pouches. They also have on these a spot behind them so you can feed stuff through the back of it here if maybe you need some extra stowage space, or like there's something that you need to keep out front. It's got extra place for Alice attachment. It's got a drawstring style opening. And it's just got one large main compartment with a spot to put a manpack radio in there and cinch it down so it's close to your body. Now, as far as the waist belt goes, it was actually already on the frame when I got it, but it's again a very rudimentary waist belt. It's got just a tiny bit of padding on it, but for the most part, it is nothing special. And of course, because it's in that same Alice style, it has a small little pocket up here where you can put stuff in here. It's Velcro closure, and because it's this Manpack one, it's also got a spot for you to open up the lid in order to be able to feed an antenna or a hydration tube or something like that through there. And it's got these big long straps with tri-glides for the closure. So just going over the features or lack thereof in something like this, why on earth would I choose something like this and do choose something like this? I still take this out every now and then, although it's not necessarily my main squeeze. Why do I choose something like this over that 511 bag? Well, one is it's got a little bit of extra space on the frame, and if you really need to, you can take some shock cord, feed them through these loops right here, and lash stuff down. I've done that with that little can of provisions we have at home, pump that I have. I've done that. Also a tent I've lashed to the side here, so it doesn't take up space in here. And one time when I had a really bulky sleep system, I did the same thing and just slept on a tarp in the ground. And then the main pack, if you're going camping or you're going to a field and you're not going to be out super long, because I think having limited space is a good thing because it makes you reevaluate what you actually want to take. So you don't get out there with a whole bunch of shit you don't need and just like, fuck, man, I hate carrying this shit around, because that does happen. So I think something like this, because it's just so. Now I'm not sure the price on these. Maybe I just got lucky, and I got one of these super cheap when maybe they aren't necessarily, but something like this that's just so darn cheap, you know, that it's almost like the barrier to entry to something like this is so incredibly low that there's almost no argument not to have something like it. Um, and like everybody knows and loves Alice, it's built on the Alice framework. Just because it's not the best doesn't mean it's bad by any means, and that's really what this pack is. Oh, I should say that these U-shaped frames aren't necessarily intended to work with Alice bags. You see that 200-mile-an-hour tape that I have right there? That's holding an old SAM splint in it, so it pushes the forks to the side so they hit the top right here to keep it on it. When it's loaded down, though, it works a lot better than just how it is right now. But yeah, I would recommend something like this over the 511. But I would also recommend this. I already have a video up on this. It's a few years old, so maybe it's amateur hour and I just don't remember. But if you'd really like an in-depth review of it, probably go to that one. In short, comparing this to the 511 on paper, this is like a 32-liter bag. It's the Mystery Ranch 3-day assault pack, like a 32-liter bag. I've had to add these 200-round saw pouches on either side of it because I just need the extra space for, just stuff, you know. It's got these two really good closures on the side, or these two really good pockets on the side of it with just elastic closures, and it's got these straps on the front of it where you can really cinch it down and get it tight. Unlike the 511, it does have load lifting straps. It has a waist belt as well. It's a little bit more padded, but not crazy so. And it also has a plastic internal frame like the 511. If you have a buddy, it's adjustable. You need an extra set of hands to do it, but once you get it adjusted to you, and your height, I want to say this is the medium large or something like that, or medium slash large is what it is. Uh, and you notice compared to the 511, it's got a relatively thin contact area, but it also has these foam blocks right here that kind of stabilize the load while it's on you, especially while you're wearing a plate carrier. Now, these are removable, but I've opted to leave them on uh, just because I think for the most part they make the bag more comfortable and they really help with keeping it from shifting around. So these other two bags we've taken a brief look at. Why in my opinion did they work where the 511 fails? The 511 pack is a very well made pack. It's just made without the right things in mind. A 3-day bag should not be meant for you to carry everything you could possibly want for 3 days. It should make you forced to carry only what you need for 3 days, at least within this this framework that we're obviously operating in within something that's obviously supposed to be tactical. You know, I mentioned earlier that it's basically like tactical luggage, and I recognize that that sounds kind of pejorative, but I don't necessarily mean for it to be so. You know, if you just want something that looks cool, 511 is actually a really good brand for that. If you just want something that looks cool. However, in my opinion, for the money, um, I recognize that Mystery Ranch is getting extremely expensive. I bought mine a few years ago. They were not as expensive as they are now, but even recognizing that, like maybe you don't want to spend Mystery Ranch money, totally get it. Building something out of milsurp, not super hard and very effective. But whenever you put something together out of milsurp, usually you're doing it with a real intent behind it, an intent for you to use it for a specific purpose. Some gear is made specifically with one goal in mind or one set of goals in mind, and it's only going to be good at these few things. And some gear is made to be able to give you as much as it possibly can within whatever given framework it is. And it doesn't necessarily apply to bags, but I use the example of bags because you see all this shit that I have to talk about, and experience with. So I think for us as consumers, and myself, somebody who's lucky enough to be able to take the time to go test these things out and tell other people what I found with them. What we have to do is we have to be one honest with ourselves about whether or not stuff's good. Like it sucks to spend your money on something and be like, actually, this is kind of trash. And two, we have to be honest with manufacturers about whether or not their product is actually good. Just because gear is built well doesn't mean it's good gear. And just because gear was made to fill a certain role doesn't mean that it fills it very well. Most of all, guys, I just want to say thank you for watching, especially if you watch till the end of this. I really appreciate it. With all that said, guys, hope you have a good one and catch you later.